Welcome back to RotoQL University. Today we're going to be doing a little lesson about how to build multiple lineups within the tool and kind of the thought process and strategy behind it. And all doing it all within the RotoQL interface. So today is June 21st. We're recording this in the morning. So this is not official lineups yet, but everything will still apply for what we do here. So first thing I like to do, and I think, is just take a look at all the games, get a feel for what are the pitching options, what are the batter options, and as we've talked about before, some of the things I like to look at are first the weather. Is there going to be any weather concerns? And then two, kind of what are the projected runs? You can kind of take a look at, just a quick look at what are going to be the best pitching options potentially and the teams you want to target with your hitters. Starting with the Orioles game, it's pretty warm, small chance of rain. First thing you look at is the 5.7 runs for the Orioles, which is pretty good. Something that I want to definitely take a closer look at as a team eventually want to stack. Same thing with the Yankees. So 5.1 looks pretty good. If you take a look at some of these prices, outside of Beltran, there's some pretty affordable prices. That's something I may want to look at later. So here, Pittsburgh doesn't have a lineup yet because they don't have their starting pitcher announced. But once that gets announced, we'll have that lineup. But I don't see them being a big part of today's slate, hitting wise, especially with Johnny Cueto on the mound. Continue to scroll down. Toronto looks pretty decent. Red Sox are usually a good pick, but Chris Sale on the mound makes things a lot more tricky. And maybe even we want to look at Chris Sale at 8,700, which is pretty much taking into account the matchup. And if this wasn't clear already, we're looking at DraftKings right now. So looking at this, I think Corey Kluber might actually be a pretty good pitcher. Cleveland also looks like they could be a potential stack that's pretty low owned, and if you want to pay up for pitching, look at these salaries across the board. They're all pretty affordable. This Detroit-Seattle game doesn't look as interesting as some of the others. 4.5 runs is lower than I think 3 or 4 teams we looked at before. Miami, this game looks really good for Jose. We're looking at the Baseball Prospectus projections, and they have him at 31, which is I think a bit high, but this is a great matchup. You're looking at the 2.8 projected runs at Atlanta, who you know is not a good hitting team. We have Syndergaard against the Royals, so they don't strike out as much, and his price is high, but he's definitely an option for some. Continue to go down. This game doesn't look as interesting from a fantasy perspective. This Cincinnati-Texas game, though, looks really good. I'm taking a quick look. I love the Texas Rangers at 5.7 projected runs, and again, we're looking at these salaries with Mazzara, Beltre, Prince. The Prince wash is in full effect. These salaries look really good. So that might be a team I really want to focus on stacking, especially since we have Jose in a really good matchup, but at an elite price point. I'll continue to look down. Houston might be a little bit interesting because they have some good righties. But then again, the 4.8 is a little bit lower. And then we have Philly, Minnesota, another game that doesn't seem too exciting from a fantasy perspective. Oakland, not too much either. And then rounding out Dodgers and Nationals. two decent pitchers, and in a hitters or not a hitters park, complete opposite, a pitchers park. So that might be a game that I'm not going to focus on stacking. So now I've got a pretty good idea of what's going on with the slate, some of these projections. I personally use my own projections, but whatever projections you use, you can kind of take a quick look, and I think it's helpful to kind of see them all on one page to get an idea of places you want to target. So really the first things that jump out is Jose is by far the best pitcher, and then I kind of like the Orioles, the Yankees, and the Texas Rangers as potential stacks, as well as Toronto. So now, next step for me, I think, is kind of take a look at the Insights tab to kind of drill down on some of these options that we've looked at to kind of figure out places we really want to focus on and things we want to really have overweight in the field on. So again, pitching Insights tool is pretty useful. So the Savvy, we can tell that Jose Fernandez has been pretty consistent, so he might be a cash game option as well as a tournament option. So no surprise that Jose is the highest rated pitcher. Don't think there's anything that would lead you to believe otherwise. Then we're looking at Cueto, Estrada, Kluber. So all the options we talked about. Another one I think is pretty good is Sonny Gray at 6,600. So he's a pretty good pitcher, although I think he overperformed last year and set to come back to earth. He might be a good option to pair with Jose in a lot of options. So looking at this, good idea of pitcher. So for me, I think Jose, Kluber, Sonny Gray are probably going to be my three top options. And take a look at some of these hitters to kind of go back. We talked about, so Baltimore is showing up really high. So look at these scores, the high team projected runs, the pitcher WOBAs, they're all very high. This leads me to believe that Baltimore is definitely going to be one of my top stacks. You see some Texas players, but since we're only doing all batters, we're going to kind of look more at some of the catchers. Again, we'll see if Wilson Contreras is starting again. He makes a very good play at $2,000. So we'll kind of roll through some of these again. So we'll see Chris Davis, Edwin Encarnacion, some of the Texas players. So all things that kind of confirm what we were thinking about before. I do think Joey Votto is another one that could be a very good play. I really like Altuve. His price is a little bit high. I really like Shoop too, but at 5,200 and batting sixth, he might be someone that I'll bump down personally, even though he has a high score. There's all good options here. Let's continue to go through. Third baseman, we have Donaldson, who's obviously been great. Beltre, Carpenter, always a good option. Shortstop. So we're kind of confirming the things that we're talking about. And for me, I think going back, and I think we really want to focus on the Orioles, some Blue Jays, some of the Yankees, and definitely some of the Texas Rangers for our stacks. So we're going to come through here. So one thing I'm going to do now is go back and some of the players that I think were a little bit high, like Shoop, I'm going to move him down a little bit before I even start building teams. Whatever your method of down is, I'm just going to kind of take a quick intuition-based bump down here. Going to move up Mr. Kluber to the 22.5. I'm going to move down Saahil. I do think he's a good play for that option, but I think that projection is really high. So I'm going to move him down all the way down to 20. Then let's go down. I'm going to move down Jose too. I still think he's the best option of the slate, but 31 is really, really high. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find projections that consistently can hit 31, but 28 is still very, very high and still, I think, 5.5 above the next highest projection. Actually, 5 if we have Syndergaard, who I'm going to bump down a little bit too. Move him down to 22.75. Let's go down, and then some of these Texas players. I'll leave there. Prince seems reasonable. Mazzara, I think I'm gonna bump up a little bit. Looks good. And then I'm gonna move up Sonny Gray a bit to 17.5. So those are the quick things that jumped out to me in terms of projections. So then the next step is go about and start building lineups. So today I'm gonna kind of go through, build out 200 lineups. So what I'll do is I'm gonna try to stack 4 different teams. I'm going to stack the Orioles, Yankees, Blue Jays, and the Texas Rangers. So I think Texas Rangers for me are the top, so I'm going to start with them, and I'm going to try to stack them 75 times. So I'm going to break it down: 75 times Texas Rangers, 25 times Blue Jays, 50 times each for the Orioles and the Yankees. So based on that, you can kind of see the thought process and what the lineups actually look like. Generally, I may go a little bit more diversified on my stacks, maybe add a couple more teams, but just for the sake of brevity, let's just do this. So first thing, I'm going to start with the Texas Rangers. So we're going to start with doing the Texas stack. So we're going to stack them 75 times. I think we're going to do 2 different variations, 40 and 35. Just quick top of my head stuff, but you can kind of iterate this through the day, and that's something that I'll do. But let's start with stacking just the top 5 of the order. This will give you the highest expectation, although it may be the highest owned. I do think Texas will be a little bit under-owned, so maybe I won't be too chalky with doing this. So stack the first 5. Let's go over to Optimizer and just see what that looks like. So first off, yeah, we see all 5. We actually got 3 Houston players together. So this is kind of going to be a 5-3 stack, which is a very good strategy, I think, in a lot of cases. And we have Buchholz and Jose together. I think that's a very, very good option. I mean, Buchholz has obviously struggled, but at 4.8K, 4.9K, I think he's perfectly acceptable. And you have Jose with him, and then just kind of look down here, see some of these options. And then if we kind of move around this volatility slider, if we move it all the way up, we'll get some different options. We'll get more Bud Norris, for better or for worse. I don't like Bud Norris as much, even though he's pitched pretty well. So maybe I'll bump down his projection just a bit to 13. He's still coming up, so maybe which makes sense to have some. So if we kind of move this around, we can see how things look too. If you want to go a little more conservative, consistent players, we can see Ivanova showing up. But since we're building tournament lineups, I don't really care. I'm happy with the volatility. So let's actually build 35 or 40 lineups, like we talked about. And then we can generate those. So now we have 40 lineups. Go down, we see all the way down, you see you can kind of just take a look at some of these pitching options. I'm not a big believer in forcing ownership percentages, just because you're going to lose some expectation just trying to gain some variance or kind of spreading your risk. But if you're comfortable with it, I don't see any problem with kind of going all in on certain players. So we'll see that with out of Jose and these teams. So I'm going to continue to bump down Bud Norris just to see what happens. Till we kind of get a more even flow. Let's go down 10. So we're still seeing a lot of Bud Norris. I do like Bud Norris, but maybe I'll try to conserve him. Or actually, now even after I bash putting ownership percentages in. Maybe it's something to consider here, but let's just modify the player exposures. I'm put Bud Norris at 20% here, and then see how things look. So this goes back, we can kind of see these. So Sonny Gray, Jose Fernandez, not as much Buchholz, or actually no Buchholz. Again, so maybe I'll bump up Buchholz so I get a little bit of exposure to him. So let's close this, go back to the Games tab, put Buchholz up to 16, 17. And then we can go back to Optimizer and see if that's going to create any Buchholz. So we have them on 3%, but let's bump them up to 10%. So yeah, so here we go. We can see that we're pretty much all in on Jose. A lot of JJ Hardy, a lot of Sonny Gray. So just taking a quick look, I feel pretty good about this, so I'm going to go ahead and save them. So bulk save lineups, so I can just select all, so saving 40 lineups. So apply those changes. Changes saved. So then we can go back to our saved lineups, and we can see we have 40 lineups here. So it looks like we're leaving a lot of on the table in some spots. That's something that I would go back to and kind of figure out what's going on there. Maybe bump up some projections of some players. I think Hardy might be a little bit high. But that's something you can do throughout the day. I'm just going to go back and build another variation of Texas. So let's go to projections. Or actually go back to games. Go back to Texas. And then instead of stacking Odor, I'm going to just stack Bobby Wilson, and instead of Desmond, I'll stack Andrus. So this will definitely be a lot lower owned, and allow us a little variation, but getting exposure to some of the bottom of the lineup here. So go back to the optimizer. So we have 40 lineups. Let's take a quick look at player exposures. I'm going to wipe out Bud Norris right now, or clear all the exposures so we can take a look at things again. So theoretically, we'll get a little different pitchers because we're going cheaper on the hitters, so we can kind of take a look at that and see, yeah, Corey Kluber is showing up on some of these teams more frequently. So if you go back and kind of take a look at see what is Corey Kluber's ownership here. So he's still pretty low, around 10%. So maybe here I'll bump him up to around 20%. And yeah, and we'll see that Buchholz is still showing up a bit more here. Jose again is really up there, and some Wainwright. So I'll close this out. Taking a quick look. So I think, yeah, these teams seem good. So I'm going to actually save 35 of them. So bulk save that. So saving those 35 lineups. So now we can go back and see we have 75 lineups, so that's what I'll do for Texas. So next thing I'm going to do is try to stack the Orioles. So I'm going to clear out these stacks here. And I'm going to stack same variation 50 times 40 Orioles. So I think Chris Davis is obviously one of the top plays. He has the highest projection, so I'm obviously going to want to force him in there. Then I think Trumbo, Adam Jones, and Wieters are all very good. And then let's do Shoop. I'm not as high on him, but at second base is always a tough position to pick, so we're going to go for that. Go back to the optimizer, and we're going to do 50 variations using that stack. So since we have higher prices all around, it's a little tougher to fit in our boy Jose. So he's going down to around 10%. Since you're forcing Kluber, since we've changed that, I don't see the need to force Kluber at 24 or 20% again. And now you can see he's up to 24%. So I'm going to bump up Jose a bit since we kind of want some Jose exposure with kind of every combination. But it's always good to have variety with your pitchers with a different stack. So coming back here, we see now that we have a lot of Eugenio Suarez. We have some Eddie Butler. So yeah, so we're gonna do some stacking against Eddie Butler later on, but he has a very good price, and he is I think a little more talented than people give him credit for. But I do think he's also valid to stack against, but at 4,100, he could be an interesting play. So there we go. I'm going to just save these lineups again. I'll select all. So apply these changes, save them. So now we have 125 lineups, and then we're going to build 75 more games. So we're going to stack the Yankees. I don't like Beltran. At that price, he's really high, so even though he's in batting third, I'm going to avoid him and do McCann, Castro, and Didi. So we can see that we have a lot of cheaper players here. So that's another thing, that if you're stacking a different team that's a lot cheaper, you're going to open yourself up to a lot of different pitching options and a lot of hitter options to fill in. So go back to the optimizer. We're going to build 50 lineups again. I'm going to make sure to clear out the exposures, because we're going to get a lot more Jose, I'm guessing, with these cheaper options in the batting side. So we'll see that we have Chris Davis at our first baseman, which is something that I like, to kind of get a very high-priced player to move around your stacks, who's a very good hitter. And we're also having Trumbo. So again, take a quick look at the exposures, and as you can see, Jose is back up to around 90%. A lot of Sonny Gray as well, and some Corey Kluber. So I feel pretty good about this. I do think they'll be pretty contrarian, so this is probably the one spot where I'm taking a little bit of risk. So I'll save these. So those should be good to go. Let's confirm that. Yep, 175. And then let's go back and build our last group of stacks for the night. Let's clear out these. And let's go Toronto. I'm not sure Carrera is going to lead off. But if he does, I think he makes a nice play. Obviously, we need to go back and revisit these lineups once we get actual confirmed lineups. But I think if Carrera is leading off, he's going to be a very, very good play. So I think I'm just going to go stack Donaldson, Encarnacion, Saunders, and Russell Martin. So these are going to be pretty expensive. You look at these three players, all above 5K. I think it's going to lower our exposure to some of the Jose and some of the top pitchers. So using that, we can go back to Optimizer, and we still have a fair amount of Jose, but you can see that we've filled it in with Aaron Hill, Freddie Galvis, Justin Upton, all of whom are obviously on the cheaper side. So look at these exposures. We can see we have Aaron Hill now at 100%, just because he's very cheap, 3,200. A lot of Nick Ahmed, a lot less Jose, a lot more Eddie Butler. So these are the function of the salaries. I don't want as much Aaron Hill, so I'm going to bump him to 50%. So that's going to alter what we do in the second baseman side. So we're going to get some Shoop and some Laurie. And it's also going to lower our Jose, because we're probably, for the most part, go more expensive at second base. So these look good to me. I'm gonna save these again. But actually, since we want to build 25, let's actually build 25. So bulk save those. So we can see that we have still a lot of Jose, a lot of Buckholz, and some Kluber. So now we can take a look at our saved lineups. We have 200. So then from this point, you would download your DraftKings import file. You can do it for FanDuel as well, and then kind of put them in the website, and hopefully have a good night. So this is just a quick run through of kind of what I think the thought process and how you should think about things for multiple lineups. I do think you should be more cognizant of who you're pairing with whom, and probably go with a little more variation of your team stacks. So didn't want to keep this video too long, but if you're going to stack Baltimore 50 times, if that's your plan, maybe do it 20-20-10, kind of have a little variation there. Make sure you kind of have some exposure to all the different pitchers you're targeting in each of those individual stacks, so you can play around with the exposures to some, or play around with the projections to get what you want. But this is kind of the way I think about things, and hopefully this was informative, guys.